Most people moving to Charlotte think that they know exactly what kind of neighborhood they want. Brand new house, perfect sidewalks, every roof the same color, and hey, I get it, that's where a lot of people start their search. But then this happens. We drive through one of Charlotte's older neighborhoods. Massive trees hanging over the street, brick homes with big front porches. Every house looks a little different. And suddenly the car slows down just a little bit. People start pointing at houses, looking around like, wait, this exists here? Yeah. It does. And the people who get into neighborhoods like this, they rarely leave. Charlotte's been on a serious growth run lately. People moving here every single day. But some of the best neighborhoods in this city aren't the ones that are being built up right now. They're the ones that have been here for decades. Places like Dilworth or Myers Park. So today, we're rolling through one of Charlotte's classic neighborhoods. The vibe, the homes, and the lifestyle. And once you see places like this, are you still going to want that brand new subdivision you heard or that you thought you wanted? All right, quick story here. I had a couple relocating to Charlotte not long ago, and they flew down for the weekend with the whole search planned out. In their mind, it was simple. Brand new construction, big house, master plan neighborhoods, pool, clubhouse, walking trails, the whole setup. And honestly, I already had a feeling how this might go, because I've seen this same shift happen more than once when people actually get out and feel the older parts of Charlotte in person. So we spent the first day touring exactly that. New builds everywhere. But on the second day, I said, before you head home, I just want to show you something. And we drove through one of Charlotte's older neighborhoods, the kind of streets that you see around Dilworth or Myers Park. And the vibe changed instantly. Suddenly their car slowed down. Nobody's talking about square footage anymore. They're pointing at houses. That's usually my favorite moment on these tours because you can feel the whole conversation change in real time. One of them finally said, wait, this feels completely different. And that happens all the time. Because before we even talk about the homes, the first thing people notice when they turn onto streets like this is the vibe. The moment you turn into a neighborhood like this, you realize something pretty quickly. It's not really about the houses anymore. It's about the feeling. You feel it almost immediately. The streets get quieter, the trees start getting bigger, and I'm talking huge, mature oaks and maples stretching over the road, almost forming a canopy above you. In the middle of summer, these streets stay noticeably cooler because the shade is everywhere. And the houses, none of them look the same. You've got classic brick colonials, older craftsman homes, renovated mid-century spots, and every once in a while, a brand new construction custom home where someone rebuilt the whole place. But nothing really feels cookie cutter. Every house has its own personality. And this is usually the moment that the car starts to slow down a little bit. I've had clients literally say, hold on, slow down a second. Because they're busy looking at the houses. You'll see someone walking their dog, a kid riding a bike down the sidewalk, maybe someone sitting out on a front porch talking with a neighbor. Every once in a while, you'll hear a dog bark somewhere down the street or smell someone grilling on a Saturday afternoon. It just feels lived in. Just a neighborhood that's been part of Charlotte for a long time. Neighborhoods like this don't appear overnight. They grew into the city over decades, sometimes generations. Places around Charlotte like Dilworth, Myers Park, Eastover, and the neighborhoods around Freedom Park have this completely different energy compared to brand new developments that are popping up further out. And part of the reason is simple. Charlotte has been one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Depending on the year, the region has been adding well over 100 new residents a day. And the metro area is pushing close to 3 million people now. That kind of growth changes the housing market fast. It's also why neighborhoods close to the city center, especially the established ones, tend to stay pretty competitive. Land becomes scarce, demand stays high, and suddenly places like this become some of the most sought after areas in the entire city. You can build new houses pretty fast, but you can't build a neighborhood like this overnight. And the funny thing is that most buyers moving here don't even realize how much that matters until they drive through a place like this for the first time. Because once people feel the neighborhood, once they see the streets and the homes and the people that are actually living their lives here, the next question always comes up. All right, how do we find a place like this? And that's exactly what we help people do every single week. If you're thinking about moving to Charlotte, buying a home here, or even just selling in one of these neighborhoods, our team would love to help. So if you're trying to figure out which Charlotte neighborhood actually fits the life you want, reach out to our team. We're proud to be the local Charlotte real estate team of choice, and you can call, text, or email us below. Neighborhoods like this aren't really defined by the houses. They're defined by the people who choose to live here and the rhythm of life that develops around them. And that's one of the things that people relocating to Charlotte start to notice pretty quickly. The city has been growing fast. Depending on the year, the Charlotte region has been adding well over 100 new residents every single day. And the metro population is now pushing close to 3 million people. A lot of that growth is coming from people relocating from places like New York, New Jersey, California, and Florida, often drawn here by job opportunities in banking, tech, healthcare, and finance. But once those buyers actually start exploring neighborhoods like this, something interesting happens. Their priorities shift. At first, they might be focused on square footage or brand new construction. Then they spend a little time in an established neighborhood like this, and suddenly the conversation changes a little bit. Because communities like this tend to attract people who care about lifestyle just as much as the house itself. You'll meet neighbors who have lived on the same street for 15, 20, sometimes even 30 or 40 years. Kids grow up riding bikes together. People recognize each other walking down the sidewalk, and conversations are happening naturally when neighbors run into each other outside. It's a very different kind of energy. This isn't the kind of place where everyone pulls into the garage and disappears inside the house. Life here happens outside. You'll see someone walking their dog down the street, a couple people talking on their front porch, or a group of kids riding bikes back and forth on the sidewalk. On a typical Saturday morning, you might see runners heading towards Freedom Park, cyclists rolling onto the Little Sugar Creek Greenway, or families walking over for a picnic in the park in the middle of the day. Later in the day, people might grab brunch in Dilworth, meet friends for dinner in Plaza Midwood, or head over to South End where a lot of Charlotte's breweries and restaurants are. And that balance is a big reason that Charlotte keeps attracting new residents. The city is home to the second largest banking center in the United States, and major employers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Atrium Health bring thousands of professionals into the region every year. Yet, despite all of that growth and economic momentum, many of Charlotte's most desirable neighborhoods still maintain a strong sense of community. In the morning, it's runners, dog walkers, and coffee. By evening, it's dinner reservations, porch conversations, and people heading out to South End or Plaza Midwood. You get the energy and opportunity of a fast-paced, fast-growing city, but you still get neighborhoods where people know their neighbors and life happens outside the walls of the home. And that's when many buyers realize something very important. The house might get your attention, but the neighborhood is what makes people actually stay. So I'm curious about something here. When you picture your ideal neighborhood, are you thinking that you're the kind of person who wants a tight-knit community where neighbors actually know each other? Or do you prefer something a little newer and more private where everyone kind of keeps to themselves? Drop that in the comments below. I read every single one because once people start imagining themselves living this kind of lifestyle, the conversation naturally shifts to the next thing that buyers always want to know when they tour an area like this. What do homes actually look like here? And that's where things get really interesting, because in neighborhoods like this, the houses tell a story of their own. Once people start falling in love with the vibe of neighborhoods like this, the next thing that usually clicks is the location. Because in Charlotte, location quietly does a lot of the heavy lifting. One thing that a lot of relocation buyers don't realize right away is that Charlotte isn't built around just one downtown with suburbs stretching out forever. The city actually functions more like a network of hubs. You've got Uptown, which is the financial center, but then you also got major activity areas like South Park, South End, NODA, and the university area, each with their own offices, coffee spots, breweries, and places people actually spend time. And neighborhoods like this sit right in the middle of it all. That's the advantage. When you live in an established neighborhood closer to the core of the city, most of the places that people actually want to go end up being about 10 to 15 minutes away. Someone might work in Uptown during the week, grab dinner in South End on a Friday night, and spend Saturday morning walking through Freedom Park, and then meet some friends for brunch in Dilworth or Plaza Midwood that day. And that kind of access makes everyday life easier. You're not driving 45 minutes just to grab dinner or meet friends somewhere. Instead, most of the things that people love about Charlotte are already right around the corner. You'll see runners heading towards the Little Sugar Creek Greenway, cyclists rolling through the park, or neighbors walking down the street on their way to grab coffee nearby. That convenience becomes even more important as the city continues to grow. Charlotte has been one of the fastest growing metros in the country for years now, with the region adding well over 100 new residents every single day. The metro population is now pushing close to 3 million people, and major employers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Atrium continue bringing thousands of professionals into the city every year. Charlotte is also home to the second largest banking center in the United States, which keeps uptown buzzing with new jobs and opportunities. And when a city grows that quickly, something interesting starts to happen. Land closer to the center becomes way more valuable. You can build new homes on the edges of the city where there's still open land, but you can't create new historic neighborhoods right next to uptown. Those already exist. And that's exactly why areas like Myers Park, Dilworth, Eastover, and neighborhoods surrounding Freedom Park continue to hold their value and attract so much attention from buyers. They combine three things that become harder to find as the city expands. You're close to the jobs, parks, and the restaurants and nightlife, but you still get a quiet residential street to come home to at the end of the day. With Charlotte growing this fast, that's the kind of setup you don't stumble into by accident. And once buyers understand how powerful that location advantage actually is, they start looking at these neighborhoods a little differently. Because the lifestyle is great, the location is even better. But the homes themselves, that's where things really start to get interesting. Here's something that surprises a lot of buyers when they move to Charlotte. Most people start their home search thinking that they want brand new construction. And honestly, that makes sense. Charlotte has been one of the fastest growing cities in the country for years. The region has been adding well over 100 new residents a day, and the metro area is now pushing close to 3 million people. Builders have responded by putting up thousands of new homes all across the outer parts of the city where land is easier to develop. So if you start browsing homes online, most of what you're going to see is brand new neighborhoods popping up further out. But here's where things start to change. Once buyers actually spend time in Charlotte and drive through neighborhoods like Dilworth, Myers Park, Eastover, or the areas around Freedom Park, they start realizing something pretty quickly. These places feel different. That's usually the pivot point. Buyers come in chasing the house, then realize that the real win is the neighborhood. You're driving down shaded streets with mature trees overhead. Someone is walking their dog down the sidewalk. You might hear kids playing in the yard or see neighbors talking on a front porch. It just feels established. And that's not something a brand new development can replicate overnight. Many of these neighborhoods have 50, 60, sometimes even 80 to 100 years to develop their character. Homes were built across multiple decades, which means you will see a mix of architecture instead of one single style repeated across every street. And that right there is where people start seeing Charlotte a little differently. You might see a 1950s brick ranch followed by a renovated craftsman, and then right next door is a modern custom home where someone rebuilt it from the ground up. And here's another insider detail that most relocation buyers do not realize right away. In many of Charlotte's most desirable established neighborhoods, the land itself is often more valuable than the house sitting on it. That's why you occasionally see these older homes being replaced with new custom builds. The real value is the location and the neighborhood itself. And as Charlotte keeps growing, these locations become even more valuable. The city is home to the second largest banking center in the United States, and major employers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Atrium Health continue bringing thousands of professionals into the region every year. At the same time, North Carolina has been one of the fastest growing states in the country, with population growth close to 10% over the past decade. That kind of momentum changes the housing market. When more people move to the region and jobs continue expanding, areas close to the center of the city naturally become more competitive. You can always build new homes on the outskirts where land is available, but you cannot recreate historic neighborhoods right next to uptown. Those already exist. And once buyers understand that dynamic, the conversation tends to shift pretty quickly. They stop asking how new the house is and start asking much more interesting questions. What kind of homes are actually here? Because once you start looking closely at the houses themselves, that's where the neighborhood really starts telling its story. Now, once buyers understand the lifestyle, the community, and the location advantages, the next thing they want to know is pretty simple. What do the homes here actually look like? And this is where established neighborhoods really start to stand apart from the newer developments. Because when you drive through areas like Dilworth, Myers Park, Eastover, or the neighborhoods that are surrounding Freedom Park, you're not looking at houses that were all built at the same time. These communities developed over multiple decades, sometimes even close to a century, which means the architecture reflects different eras of Charlotte's growth. You might see a 1940s or 1950s brick ranch sitting next to a classic two-story colonial, followed by a craftsman-style home with a wide front porch. And then right down the street, you might notice a modern custom build where the original home was clearly replaced with something brand new. That variety is a huge part of the appeal in these neighborhoods. Every street feels a little different. Some homes still have their original hardwood floors, detailed trim work, and solid brick construction, while others have been beautifully renovated with open kitchens, larger living spaces, and updated interiors that blend modern living with historic charm. You might walk up a set of old brick steps, hear the screen door close behind you, and immediately feel that sense of character that comes with homes that have been around for decades. It feels like a house with some stories in it, not something that just showed up 6 months ago. And that kind of architecture is one of the reasons demand has stayed strong in Charlotte's core neighborhoods. Over the past decade, Charlotte's population has grown rapidly, with the metro area approaching 3 million residents and continuing to attract new professionals every year thanks to industries like banking, healthcare, and tech. With major employers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Atrium Health expanding, demand for housing close to the city center has stayed very strong. That growth has had noticeable impact on the housing market. In many of Charlotte's established neighborhoods, the land itself often becomes more valuable than the original house that's sitting on it. That's why you'll occasionally see older homes being renovated or replaced by newer custom builds. Buyers recognize that proximity to places like Uptown, South End, and Freedom Park carries long-term value. And this is where people's math starts changing a little bit. Buyers who swore they wanted more house suddenly start paying more for less square footage because the street and location are doing a lot of the work there. And because of that demand, the price range in neighborhoods like this can vary quite a bit. Smaller original homes that need some updating might start somewhere in the mid to upper $600,000 range, depending on the street and lot size. Renovated homes often move into the $800,000 to $1.2 million range to start, while larger custom builds in prime areas and neighborhoods like Myers Park and Eastover can easily reach $3 million and up. Now, I'm curious about something. If you had the choice, would you rather own a renovated historic home with character or a brand new modern build where everything is updated from day one? Drop that in the comments below. I read every single one, and that range reflects something very important. Established neighborhoods evolve over time, and as Charlotte continues growing and new residents move into the city, homeowners invest in renovations, rebuilds, and upgrades that slowly elevate the entire area. A small mid-century house might become a beautifully updated modern home. An older property might be replaced by a custom build that still fits the character of the street. The neighborhood grows with this city. And buyers recognize that when they start looking at homes in areas like this. Because at the end of the day, you're not just buying square footage, you're buying location, history, and long-term value. But here's the honest part of the conversation that buyers eventually have to think about. Even though neighborhoods like this offer incredible character, location, and community, they are not always the perfect fit for every buyer. And that brings us to the next important part of understanding areas like this, the real pros and the honest trade-offs of living in an established Charlotte neighborhood. Neighborhoods like this offer some of the best lifestyle advantages in Charlotte, but they also come with a few honest trade-offs that buyers should understand before deciding if this type of community is the right fit. When people first start exploring areas like Dilworth, Myers Park, Eastover, or the neighborhoods that surround Freedom Park, the positives tend to jump out pretty quickly. These communities combine location, character, and lifestyle in a way that is difficult to replicate in newer developments further outside the city. One of the biggest advantages is simply the location. Living in an established neighborhood near the center of Charlotte means you're usually within minutes of many of the places that makes the city so enjoyable. Residents might spend the work week commuting into Uptown, meeting friends for dinner in South End, and then heading over to Plaza Midwood for a night out, or spend a Saturday morning walking through Freedom Park or biking along the Little Sugar Creek Greenway. Everything feels close. That convenience becomes more valuable every year as the city continues to grow. Charlotte's metro population is approaching 3 million residents, and the region continues attracting professionals working in industries like banking, healthcare, and tech. As a result, neighborhoods that sit closer to the heart of the city tend to stay highly desirable because they reduce commute times while placing residents near parks, restaurants, and social districts. Location carries weight. Another major advantage is the character of the neighborhood itself. These communities were not built all at once under one single development plan. Instead, they evolved gradually as Charlotte expanded, which means the homes, the streets, and even the landscaping reflect decades of growth. Mature trees line many of the roads, homes vary in architectural style, and each block tends to develop its own personality over time. So let's keep it real for a second. There's also a strong sense of community that tends to develop in places like this, because many homeowners stay for long periods of time. Neighbors often know each other, and daily life spills out into the neighborhood. You might see someone walking their dog in the evening, kids riding bikes down the street, or neighbors talking on a front porch while the sun drops behind the trees. people stick around. Of course, those same qualities also come with a few honest trade-offs that buyers should keep in mind. One of the biggest is price. Homes in established neighborhoods closer to the center of Charlotte often command higher prices because of the land value and the proximity to the city's most active areas. As demand continues to grow and more people relocate to the region, that competition can push prices upward compared to newer developments that are further outside the city. A lot of people start this search thinking newer automatically means better. Then they tour a place like this and realize that better might actually mean closer in, more character, and way more lifestyle. Another consideration is the age and layout of some of these homes. While many properties have been beautifully renovated, some of the original houses still reflect the design standards of the era in which they were built. That can sometimes mean smaller closets, unique floor plans, or features that are a little less modern than what buyers might expect from new construction. And then there's inventory. Established neighborhoods simply do not see homes come on market as often because people who move into these areas tend to stay for a long time. In communities like Myers Park, Dilworth, and Eastover, it's not unusual for homeowners to remain in the same property for decades, which means when a well-located home finally is available, it can attract some serious interest from buyers. Homes don't last long in these areas, and for many buyers, those trade-offs actually reinforce the appeal of neighborhoods like this. Because in places like this, you trade a little square footage for a lot more lifestyle. That combination of location, character, and long-term demand is why established neighborhoods continue to hold strong appeal, even as Charlotte keeps expanding outward. But there is one final piece that really explains why people fall in love with living here. It's the lifestyle that ties everything together. By the time people have toured a neighborhood like this, looked at the homes, and started picturing what daily life might feel like, something usually clicks. Because the real reason people move here isn't just the architecture, and it isn't just the location. It's the lifestyle that brings everything together. A lot of people first move to Charlotte for opportunity. The city has become one of the most important financial and business hubs in the country, with major employers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Atrium Health bringing thousands of professionals into the region every year. Charlotte is now the second largest banking center in the United States, and the metro area is approaching 3 million residents. That kind of growth attracts people from everywhere. The region has been adding well over 100 new residents a day, and many of them are relocating from places like New York, New Jersey, Florida, and California, looking for a better balance between career opportunity and quality of life. But once people actually get here, the job is rarely what they fall in love with. It's the way life feels. You might start the morning grabbing coffee nearby before heading into Uptown for work. In the evening, you could meet friends for dinner in South End, wander through the restaurants in Plaza Midwood, or take a quiet walk through Freedom Park while the sun drops behind the trees. On weekends, people bike along Little Sugar Creek Greenway, grab brunch in Dilworth, or just spend time outside enjoying the neighborhood itself. Life slows down just enough. And that balance is what makes Charlotte different. You still get the opportunity and momentum of a fast-growing city, but neighborhoods like this maintain a rhythm that feels connected and human. People walk their dogs in the evening. Kids ride bikes down the street. Neighbors are talking from the front porch as the day winds down. It feels like a real neighborhood. That's not normal in a city growing this fast, and that's exactly why people notice it. Because once people experience places like this for themselves, they stop thinking about Charlotte just as a place to work. They start thinking about it as a place to live. And that is when the conversation usually comes down to one simple question. Is this the kind of neighborhood where you can see yourself building a life? Because for a lot of people who move here, the answer ends up being yes. Here's the truth about Charlotte. You can build new houses all over the city, but you cannot recreate neighborhoods like these. And that's really what this whole video was about. Tree-lined streets, homes with real character, a strong sense of community, and a location that puts you minutes from Uptown, South End, Plaza Midwood, or Freedom Park. That's why those areas keep pulling buyers in year after year. And here's the kicker. The neighborhoods people remember most after a tour usually are not the newest ones. They're the ones with the most character and the easiest day-to-day life. We see it happen all the time. Recently, we were helping a couple relocating from New Jersey who were set on brand new construction. Then we drove through Myers Park and they asked us to slow the car down just so they could take in the streets and the homes. By the end of that drive, they looked at us and said, okay, this feels like Charlotte. That moment happens all the time. Most people moving here spend weeks trying to guess which neighborhood fits them best. And honestly, that's usually the hardest part of relocating. That's exactly what our team helps people figure out every single week. We're proud to be the local Charlotte real estate team of choice. So if you're thinking about moving here, buying a home, or even selling one of these neighborhoods, feel free to call us, text us, or email us. All of our information is in the description below. And if you want to keep exploring the city, check out our playlist called Moving to Charlotte. It walks through the areas people relocating here ask us about the most and will help you understand how different parts of Charlotte compare before you make your decision. Appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I'll see you on the next one.